Hey guys, it's Tara with Richter Publishing, and I specialize in helping business owners on how to write their nonfiction story in 4 weeks and publish a book in order to make them an expert in their industry. I've had Richter Publishing for about 6 years now, come 2020, and we have published just over 100 books, with about half of those becoming bestsellers. I have worked with famous entrepreneurs such as Kevin Harrington from the Shark Tank and comedian Mike Rivera, who was voted America's Funniest Teacher on The View, and other popular business owners. So I am here now sharing my wealth of knowledge about the writing, editing, and the publishing industry, because things have changed so much and it's just really a completely different world than what it used to be when you can only go through traditional publishers. So like and subscribe to my page so that you can get a wealth of all of these tips and tricks to help you write and publish your book. And this is the office kitty. This is Callie. Hi. She keeps us on her toes while we're writing and editing books. So one of the first tips I wanted to share with you guys is how to write a book in 4 weeks. Now, a lot of people are like, no, there's no way you can do that. It takes forever. You know, you got to sit and think about it. And especially if you get picked up by a traditional publisher, sometimes after you take years and years to write that, then it can take another 3 years for it to get out on, publication channels. But actually, I'm here to debunk that myth. It does not take years and years to write, edit, and publish your book. I actually have my own little guide here, which is, of course, how to write a book in 4 weeks. So basically, this guide I wrote in 2 weeks. Now, the interesting thing is that an industry standard 5x8 100-page book is only 20,000 words. So some other authors come to me and they say, oh, well, I only have 100,000 words. Well, honestly, that's almost a little too much, depending upon, what you're writing. Maybe if you're writing a textbook or something, like we have here, this Spanish textbook that we published by Heidi McPherson out of Hungary, actually. Now, this is going to be actually probably 150,000 words, and this looks like a freaking phone book. Most people don't want to or have the time to sit down and read something that's this massive, and it's kind of intimidating in this day and age of instant gratification, having everything at your fingertips. People just aren't going to sit down and read a huge book like War and Peace. And also, we're talking about nonfiction. We are not talking about fiction, okay? I know you can't just sit and crack out, a fiction novel in 4 weeks. Well, maybe some of the good ones like Stephen King or something can now, after they've been doing it their whole lifetime. Because with fiction, you're talking about, story, plot, characterization. It takes a lot more effort to develop a really good fiction story. What we're talking about is nonfiction. And honestly, let's talk about that really quick, the difference between fiction and nonfiction. I'm surprised at how many new authors come to me and they don't know the difference when they're filling out the form on my website if their book is fiction or nonfiction. So fiction is, it's fiction. It's, it's James Patterson. It's the Twilight series, anything like that that's fake, that's made up, is fiction. And then you have nonfiction, which is self-help, memoirs, textbooks, little guides. We have all of these books right here are nonfiction. This is Ruth's book we just came out with about autism, a mother's journey of accepting autism. So when you're thinking of nonfiction, you're basically thinking of things that are like more like self-help business. It's actually real life facts. And then there's been a category that kind of has come out new, which is fiction based on facts. So that's kind of like if you want to write your memoir, but yet, you want to add some stuff to it to make it pop a little bit more. Or you're going to be changing like names and places to protect the innocent. So it's kind of like this was a great base for a story, but then we're going to add some stuff into it so you don't really know what's, real and what's not. But for the most part, you have two genres, fiction and nonfiction. So how to write a book in 4 weeks is actually nonfiction. So for that, we're dealing with business owners, doctors, attorneys, life coaches, people that have a story to tell and it's already in their head. They just need to get it out on paper. So, that's where a lot of new authors struggle because they don't know where to start. And they have this thing in their head that just keeps nagging at them day in, day out. And it's like this little voice that's like, you need to tell the world your story. You need to get this out into the world. So if you have that little nagging voice, and that can be for fiction too, but a lot of times those are people who, want to write their memoirs, want to share something with the world, like Karen Kelly, MD. This has been a bestseller pretty much ever since we published it. This book right here, this is a 5x8 paperback, and this book is right at about 110 pages, and this is only around 20,000 words. So that kind of gives you an idea of what something like that looks like. Now, this is by Jeanette Kildeveld from Denmark. She's a life coach. This is more about 40,000 words, and this book right here is about 200 pages. So you can kind of see the difference. And like I said, this book is actually only 10,000 words. And this is a 6x9. So those are kind of the differences. I think this one's a 5.5 by 8.5. But so anyway, so you don't need 100,000 words to write a book, first of all. So let's debunk that myth. You don't need a lot. You need at least, I would say minimum 10,000, especially if it's like a self-help kind of thing and you're going to have like, I have more kind of like to-dos, outlines, type stuff, writing calendars in there. And then of course, we can always do a lot of fun stuff to kind of pull it out a little bit. Just like if you remember writing your papers in English in like say middle school and high school, it had to be 10 pages. So you would like double space that. Because basically since this one is under 100 pages, so you can't really print a spine on that because it's too small. So that's why we say minimum 20,000 words for our authors. So then you can have 100 pages and then you can actually print a spine. Even though it's really small here, you can see that you can actually still get text on that spine. So basically there is a method to the madness. Now that you know what 20,000 words look like, if you give yourself a challenge and you write 715 words a day for 28 days, you'll have a little over 20,000 words. And that's your rough draft. That is a book, this size, or even smaller depending upon, what kind of book it is that you want to write. So just do that. If you're sitting down for the first time ever, you have an idea and you want to start writing, but you're just stuck, you don't know what to do, just give yourself a goal of 715 words a day for 28 days. And that's what I have in this book, actually. And on my website, I have some free resources, which is the Writing Challenge Calendar, which is right here. So you print off the calendar and then you write. So you have the goal of 715 words, but then you write what you actually, put down what you actually did. So at the end of each week, you want around 5,000 words. And honestly, that's hardly anything. 715 words is maybe 2 pages, a little less. I know you can blog or text more than that. People probably text thousands of words every day. Sending emails, work emails, you spend more time on that. So what you really want to do is just, sit down and focus. Whenever I'm writing a new book myself, I actually have 12 books that I've written and published over the last 10 years. And whenever I'm writing a new book, I make sure it's the first thing I do every day. So, it's kind of like going to the gym. Get up, do it, go to the gym, get it over with, and then you kind of forgot that you even went to the gym. So the same thing is with writing, especially if you have a really busy schedule, if you have children, if you have a 9-to-5 job. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens in life. And one of the best advices I got from a book, I can't remember who wrote it, otherwise I would quote it, but he said you have to create during chaos. And that is so true, because you can't just sit and wait for time to write. It's like, oh, well, when I have, this 3 months off from life, that I'm going to sit down and write my book. And guess what? You never have time off from life. So you have to create that time. So I like to do it first thing in the morning, get a cup of coffee before like everyone's awake, sit with your computer, maybe go out somewhere, go to a coffee shop. Or somewhere, like if you get distracted by people at home, even if it's your pets, and, sit down and write those words. And I guarantee you, once you start writing, it's going to open up a floodgate and you're going to write more than 700 words. I can sit down and write 5,000 words in one sitting, but that's because, I just get in the zone. And so what you want to do is, get into the zone, figure out what you want to write, and just go for it. And that's the other tip is don't think too much about it. I mean, obviously have an idea of what you want to write about, but then just let it flow. Just let it come from your head to your fingertips and just type. Type as fast as you can. Usually the thoughts come faster than we can actually type. So I kind of call it a verbal vomiting on the page. Because you don't want to stop and think. You don't want to edit while you're writing. That comes later. This is the creative part where you're just trying to get everything out of your head. So it's not going to look good. It's probably going to be spelled wrong. You may not even like what you're writing, but then you get stuck in those thoughts in your head, and especially if you start to edit while you're writing, unless it's just, okay, this word is misspelled and you right click and you change it, but don't get into like too in depth of editing. Because then you're going from like the right brain to the left brain. You want to keep that creative flow open and flowing. You don't want to cross over to the analytical part of your brain, because then you're just going to tear it apart and be like, this sucks, I hate it, no one's ever going to read this. And then you start that negative pattern. You want to make sure that you keep with the creative, positive flow. And especially if you get into the emotional part of it, and that's why I call it vomiting on the page. You just want to get it out. Then you go back and you edit and you clean it up. But for the first part, just let it flow. Because sometimes, like when I start writing, I'll think I wanted to talk about one topic, and then as my fingers are going crazily, I end up all the way over here. And I didn't even know that was inside me. I didn't even know that's what I wanted to talk about. And I haven't written, for myself in a while, because I've been running the publishing house and we've been ghostwriting and editing other people's books. But when I went to Denver about a month ago to go hike some mountains with my friend Jeff, I wanted to write about my new experiences after I went and lived in Asia for 4 months and coming back and what it was like being back in America. And I hadn't written for a long time, so I thought, well, the airplane, that's a great spot to write. And I had my iPad, and I just started typing away, and I ended up typing the whole 3 hours of the plane ride, and it went into a whole nother realm that I didn't even expect to go. So sometimes it's just about making an effort to sit down and do it, and start writing, and just let it flow. So do that, do the writing challenge. After the 4 weeks, you should have 20,000 words. And that's when you go back and edit and clean up and tighten things. So the 4-week challenge, you're not going to have a perfect, ready to go manuscript. It's just to get the thoughts out of your head onto paper so that you have a rough draft. Then you can go back and start cleaning up that rough draft. You're not going to have a perfect book in 4 weeks. And one of the other things, though, the other tip is, before you start writing, you want to organize your thoughts. So I do have an outline in this book, and you can actually also download them from my website, which is richterpublishing.com/resources. I have a bunch of free stuff that you guys can download. But anyway, I have I think 3 different outlines on there, depending upon if it's a memoir, business book, self-help book. But what you want to do is just kind of decide how you're going to organize your book. So, have the topic in mind first, of course, before you start writing. So, what is this book? What is the book going to be about? Let's just say, for example, it's a book on marketing. So when you're doing the outline, you're going to have the overall topic of, okay, I'm going to write a marketing book. Okay, well then let's break that down into chapters. I like 10 chapters. I like even numbers. It just works well with my brain. So the overall topic would be marketing. Then we break it down into 10 topics, which would be like online marketing, social media marketing, old school print marketing. Sometimes that still works. Email marketing. And then from each one of those topics, then you break it down more into subtopics. So social media marketing, then a subtopic would be Facebook ads, pay-per-click ads, Instagram, stuff like that. So what you want to do before you start the writing challenge is you want to break up the information, do the outline, have it organized, and don't start writing the book in the outline. A lot of people do that. Don't overthink it. Once again, this is like Cliff Notes. It's Cliff Notes to help you stay focused on the topics that you want to write. Then I know for myself, I get a little ADD when I start writing because it's like my mind goes all over the place. So what I'll do is like one day I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write the introduction. So what I'll do is I'll write the introduction in its own Word file and then I save it. And then maybe the next day I had a spark of inspiration to write about Facebook ads. So, then write that in its own Word document and save it. And then what I do on my computer is I have a file folder, marketing book, and then I have the 10 different chapters, and each chapter is a folder. And so when I get inspired to write about that, I'll put it in that. This goes in chapter 2, this goes in chapter 3, this goes in chapter 4. So then you can really go with the flow of creativity. You don't have to start a book from beginning and go to the end. You go wherever your mind goes, Don't force yourself to write something unless it's the last thing and you really have to do it. But the other cool thing is that those little snippets of information, you can also do a blog about. If you don't have a blog and you're writing a book, you should probably get a blog now because that's going to help you market and promote the book. And then, you're getting all this content. So it's your content. You can use it, repurpose it, and put it out there however many times you want to. So what I was doing, like on my second book, my first book was 10 Rules to Survive the Dating Jungle. And my second one was 10 Rules to Survive the Internet Dating Jungle. That's a massive book if anyone's out there dating and single right now. So what I would do is I would, write, I would get inspired on a subject, I would write it, I would put some info on the blog, just a snippet, not all of it, you don't want to give it all away for free, but a snippet, and then say, if you like this, the book is coming out, whatever your launch date is. Find out more here, sign up for our newsletter, yada, yada. So, you can be multitasking and using your time as efficiently as possible, while you're writing this and start promoting and marketing and getting the buzz out there. And obviously it's good for SEO, and getting your stuff out there, on Google so that people can find you, when your book is ready. Let's see, some other tips about writing in chaos. I like to write, like I said, on my iPad, or on my phone or wherever I am, because as soon as the inspiration hits, you have to drop everything and get it out. Because if I'm doing something and I have this great inspiration for whatever part of my book, if I'm like, oh, I'll write about it tonight. Well, then you've gone about your day, you've done a bunch of stuff, you may forgot what the idea was even, and you just don't have the passion that you did when it first sparked. And if you're like me, I get inspiration from all kinds of random places. Sometimes standing in line at the grocery store, I'll have an idea pop in my head and I'll just pull up my phone and I'll just type it in really quick. And then you can email it to yourself. So when you get back to your office or home, and you pull up your email, bing, it's right there. Then you can copy and paste that, put it into Word, clean it up a little bit, and then maybe expand on it. So those are other good tips. I like to write on planes, even in traffic. I mean, obviously not when you're driving. But if you get really inspired, pull over, or when you get into a parking lot, you can even do the voice dictation on your phone. I know they have like some apps for that. I haven't found one that works really well, to be honest with you. Even just on like the iPhone, their dictation, well, it's iffy. But you can still do the voice dictation, and some of the words are going to get screwed up and they're going to throw some weird things in there, but at least you can just do it really quick. And then, like I said, email it to yourself when you get home, clean it up, put it into your folder. So then you're utilizing like every minute of every day of your inspiration, because if you want to write this book, there's no more excuses. With technology, there is no reason that you can't actually sit and get it done. It's not about, having the time, it's about having the motivation. So ditch your excuses, because I've written and published 12 of my own books while I'm writing and publishing books for other people. So, and the fact that we can get over 100 some books published in 6 years is like crazy, because I'm just an indie publisher and we have a very small staff. So it's like me and like maybe like 5 or 6 other people. And we always have 10 some books in the pipeline at once. So no excuses. You can do it, utilize your time. and just make it happen. So those are my tips for today. Like I said, like and subscribe to our page. And for free resources, go to richterpublishing.com for outlines and some other, free tips. And also, if you need our help to have you actually write your book or ghostwrite it if you don't have time, we do ghostwrite books as well. You can fill out our questionnaire to see if your topic is something that we would take on. Go to richterpublishing.com/contact us and fill out the form. And we'll see you next time.